Good afternoon. Again, my name is Rob Worley. I'm a business analyst in the Office of Securities Operations at Ginnie Mae. The team would like to welcome you to this training on the multifamily reimbursement claims process. Bailey will be assisting us today on the technical side of Zoom. If you have any questions, please direct message her. Please feel free to log your questions in the Q&A box as we're walking through the training. Questions will be taken at the end of the session or at the appropriate moment. We ask that you please do not post to the chat as the team does not monitor it during the presentation and chat contents is not accessible following the call should follow-up be needed. Bailey will now be posting the link to the presentation in the chat. Today's training will be presented by the following: Michelle Murphy, Christy Christensen, and Natalina Kolodrovic. I will now walk through the agenda. First, we will have a basic introduction into multifamily reimbursement claims. Then we'll be followed by reporting and feedback system, RFS, pool accounting, and multifamily PA and MF. RFS curtailments. Then we will discuss HUD 11710E, liquidation schedule, and RFS liquidate loan screen with curtailment. Then also without curtailment. And finally, we will be getting to the new Ginnie Mae Central requests module. I will now like to turn it over to Michelle to provide a brief introduction into reimbursement claims.
Good afternoon, everyone. And again, thank you for attending this training today. I greet you on behalf of Ginnie Mae's Multifamily Division, where Philip Buckley is our director, and my colleagues, they're here to assist me today, is Patrick Durant and Jenny Burke. So Ginnie Mae is modernizing. Oh, you can go, Bailey. I'm still on. Yeah, I'll be here for a while. So Ginnie Mae is modernizing the claims for reimbursement submission process, and the new module will be located in the Ginnie Mae Central, accessed through My Ginnie Mae. And since we were introducing this new module, we thought that this was the perfect opportunity to review the inputs, the reporting curtailments, and liquidating loans assigned to FHA. The reimbursement claims are dependent on the RFS reporting and the FHA claims assignment. Therefore, it's imperative that the data entered into both RFS and the new module are correct. And frankly, over the last few years, we've noticed some inconsistencies with the RFS reporting. So we hope that the training today will clarify some things. In addition, I'm aware that maybe we have some issuers who have never submitted a reimbursement claim or haven't done one in a few years. However, you may need to use this module in the future, and also regarding reporting, whether you may need to report other curtailments or unscheduled principal, and it actually follows the same process. So, like we stated, today's training is going to be in two parts. We're going to have Christy from VDev, which I know many of you know. She's going to present the RFS portion, and Natalina is from Deloitte. She's going to demonstrate the new claims for a reimbursement module. But first, let's get the basics and let's review the guide. Now we can change the slide. Bailey. Next slide.
Oh, geez, it looks like we're having some technical glitches here.
Oh, yeah, it skipped.
Yeah, I don't. Um, Hold on one. Here we go. Apologies.
Okay, because I was going to start. No, no problem. I was just going to keep on going. So, Ginnie Mae MBS Guide, Chapter 31. It describes the claims for reimbursement process. So what we know is that we have a 1% reimbursement, which essentially is the assignment fee, and it's for loans that it's defaulted during the life of the pool. Plus, you would get 85% of the excess. The reimbursement are for FHA loans. They can be construction loans or any of the permanent loans, including modified loans. But we do not have reimbursements for co-insured loans or for any RD loans. The claim must be filed submitted to Ginnie Mae within 60 days. And when we say 60 days, we mean calendar days. Um, I'll just put it out there. We have denied claims on the 61st day. So we need it to be within 60 days. And it's based on the final settlement date as established by the FHA transmittal letter. So you will get the final settlement transmittal letter. It's whatever date is on that, we need it within 60 days. Now, every issuer you can file a supplemental claim. And if you file a supplemental claim, then it will be 60 days from the supplemental claim letter that you receive. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the issuers must pass through the initial or partial settlement to the investor during the next reporting / remittance cycle. And there are two options. First, issuers should reapportion the principal and interest while keeping the same thick FIC and continue to report until they receive the final settlement payment from FHA. So you could pass through only the partial payment in option one. And option two, um, lenders can use corporate funds and add it to the initial or partial payment, and then you liquidate the whole pool. And Christy will actually review how to report each of these options later in the presentation. And so, without further ado, I'm actually going to pass it on to Christy Christensen from VDAF.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We will dive right into the MGM RFS Pool Accounting Multifamily Reporting. Next slide. Today, we will focus on the reporting and feedback system known as RFS. Within the Pool Accounting Multifamily PAMF module, we will discuss reporting loan level curtailments and reporting loan level liquidations. Also, we will discuss how to complete an internal liquidation schedule, also known as the 11710E. Next slide. Let's get started with curtailments. To access the Pool Accounting Multifamily module, log into MGM, select Tools in the upper right-hand corner, then select PAMF for the Pool Accounting Multifamily module under the Application section. Then select the Loan tab. As Michelle discussed earlier, Option 1 is where the issuers will pass through the claim funds curtailment received from FHA. In this example, the yellow highlight shows the FHA report period as being September 2025. During the first 4 business days of October 2025 calendar month for September 2025 RFS report period, the curtailment should be reported in the curtailment field highlighted in the purple box. Per Appendix 619, curtailment is field 20 on the loan record. Also in the green box, the curtailment principal code should be code 2, which is claim funds curtailment. The curtailment principal code is field 35 on the loan record in Appendix 6-19. Give me a thumbs up if you have reported the curtailment amounts and curtailment principal codes in RFS. Wonderful. Seeing a few thumbs. Thank you so much. After updating any loan level data in RFS, remember to click the Save button at the bottom of the screen, then go to the pool and click the Save and Summarize button. Next slide, please. Occasionally, issuers will apply FHA claim funds as delinquent payments. On the top half of the screen is an example of incorrect RFS reporting, as FHA claim funds were received in the amount of $975,184, were posted as payments and a large curtailment. Let's discuss the red boxes. In this example, for May 2018 RFS report period, the issuer applied 6 payments on May 10th, 2018, rolled the last installment date from November 1st, 2017 to May 1st, 2018, reported $27,838.50 as installment interest, $20,314.10 as installment principal, and $927,031.40 as a curtailment. FHA claim funds should not be applied as borrower payments in RFS. The bottom half of the screen is the same loan with correct RFS reporting information highlighted in green. The last installment date is the same as the prior payment date of November 1st, 2017, with 0 as the gross service fee amount collected and the actual payment date of October 5th, 2017, as this is the actual payment date the November 2017 payment was reported in the servicing system. In the middle of the screen, the curtailment principal code is A2 for claim funds curtailment. On the right, the installment interest and principal are reported as 0, and the full $975,184 received from FHA is reported in the curtailment field. A quick review before we have little reactions. Do not apply claim funds curtailment as payments in RFS. Do not bring the loan current in RFS. Do not advance the last installment date. So give me a thumbs up if claim funds received from FHA should bring the loan current in RFS. Wonderful. I do not see any thumbs. I am so happy you guys are paying attention. That is absolutely wonderful. Okay, next slide, please. On to the liquidation schedule 111710E and liquidating a loan in RFS with a curtailment. For the 1117E liquidation schedule, issuers may generate a copy as long as it includes all of the required information as the HUD 11710E form posted on the Ginnie Mae website. Excel is a great option for an internal 11710E. Here we have a top section of the 11710E. The top row has the 4-digit Ginnie Mae issuer number, the RFS report period, the 6-character Ginnie Mae pool number, and the loan FIC, also known as the BNI payment. The next row should have a 15-digit case number, the actual removal date the loan is being removed from the pool in RFS, the RFS loan type, like FLMF for FHA multifamily, and the loan interest rate. The last row is the RFS removal reason. If a reimbursement claim is being filed, removal reason 3, foreclosure with or without claim payment, should be used. Next slide, please. The bottom part of the 11710E is the amortization schedule. These amounts should match the issuer's pre-collection notices. Please notice that rows 12 and 13 have the same date. We will discuss this topic more on the next slide. Also notice that row 18 has a curtailment adjustment. Row 13 is a positive amount and row 18 is the same amount as a negative. Next slide, please. The left side of the screen is the RFS loan level reporting. The right side is the bottom section of the 11710E. First, let's focus on the left side of the slide. FHA claim funds curtailment in the amount of $4,690,318.23 was received during September 2025 calendar month. Number 1, during the first 4 business days of October 2025 calendar month for September 2025 RFS report period, the issuer reports the last installment date of November 1st, 2024, which is number 2. Notice the last installment date is the same as the prior payment date, meaning the loan is still delinquent as it should be. Number 3 is the opening UPB, which should be the same loan UPB in your servicing system before the claim funds were applied. Number 4 is $4,690,318.23, which is the claim funds received from FHA. The RFS closing UPB is now $400,380.70. Now let's focus on the right side of the slide to complete the 11710E. Number 2 in the upper left-hand corner is November 1st, 2024, which is the same as the last installment date in RFS, the last payment date on the final settlement statement. Number 3 in the upper right corner should be the same loan UPB in your servicing system, the RFS opening UPB before the claim funds were applied, and the unpaid principal balance on the final settlement statement. The 11710E rows 2 through 12 are regular amortized interest and principal amounts. Row 12 and 13 are highlighted in peach for number 1. In this example, the curtailment was reported in RFS for September 2025 report period. Therefore, on the 11710E, the curtailment line needs to be listed after the October 1st, 2025 payment, as all Ginnie Mae pools are scheduled. Number 4 is the claim funds listed as a positive curtailment amount. This example loan is being bought out of the pool in January 2026. Therefore, the amortization schedule must be completed through the February 1st, 2026 payment, which is on row 17. After the curtailment is applied on the 11710E, The FIC, also known as the P&I payment, must remain the same to be consistently reported in RFS and to the investor. Row 18 has a curtailment adjustment for the same amount as number 4, but it is a negative. This is because the curtailment amount has already been reported to RFS and drafted from your bank account. At the bottom, add up the interest and principal columns for the total interest due and total principal remitted. The liquidation balance from the final payment on row 17 in this example is brought down to the liquidation balance box in the bottom right-hand corner. Give me a thumbs up if this makes sense. Wonderful. I see lots of thumbs. That is excellent. Okay, next slide, please, Bailey. The 11710E should be completed prior to reporting the loan liquidation in RFS. Once the 11710E is completed, then reporting the liquidation in RFS is a breeze. Number 1 is the total interest due from the bottom of the 11710E and reported in RFS as the liquidation interest, which is also Appendix 619, Loan Record Field 26. Number 2 on the 11710E, total principal remitted, is reported in RFS as the liquidation principal, which is Appendix 619, Loan Record Field 27. Number 3 is the liquidation balance on the 11710E and reported in RFS, which is Appendix 619, Loan Record Field 28. Number 4 is the payment due date on the 11710E and the RFS last installment date. Number 5 is the removal reason, which should be a Code 3 foreclosure with or without claim payment if a reimbursement claim is being submitted. And last but not least, number 6 is the actual removal date. Give me a thumbs up if completing the 11710E makes RFS liquidation reporting easier. Wonderful. Love all the thumbs. Here we have a screen print of the PA-MF Liquidate Loan screen with an example of the loan that is being liquidated with a curtailment in the past. RFS generates an LIQ 202 and an LIQ 153 exception, which will remain for the month of liquidation. You may ask, why are exceptions generating if the loan is reported correctly in RFS? Next slide. This is the same loan that we have been discussing in this section. Let's discuss why RFS is generating an LIQ 202 and LIQ 153 exceptions if the amounts highlighted in green are correct. Number 1, the last installment date of the loan is November 1st, 2024, as this is the last payment that the borrower made. Please direct your eyes to the gray box in the middle of the screen at the top with a number 2. The loan UPB in your servicing system and the RFS opening UPB before the claim funds curtailment was applied was $5,090,698.93. When the curtailment of $4,690,318.23 is subtracted, this makes the UPB in RFS be $400,380.70. This is simply the math of the loan UPB minus the claim funds curtailment amount. In RFS on the liquidate loan screen, the opening UPB is $400,380.70, which is the number 2 amount. RFS is running this amortization schedule on the right side of the screen, which the number 3 totals are displayed in the expected value column on the LIQ 202 and LIQ 153 exceptions on the RFS PAMF Liquidate Loan screen. RFS is simply running the amortization schedule with the information provided on the Liquidate Loan screen. Therefore, when a curtailment is reported in the past, RFS generates LIQ 202 and LIQ 153 exceptions, which remain for the month. For the green highlighted amounts, these are correct as they are the totals from the bottom of the 11710E with the curtailment. Give me a thumbs up if this makes sense. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next slide. Thank you. So now on to the liquidation schedule 11710E and liquidating a loan in RFS without a curtailment. So this is option 2, which Michelle discussed at the beginning of today's training. For the 11710E liquidation schedule, issuers may generate a copy as long as it includes all of the required information as the HUD 11710E form posted on the Ginnie Mae website. Excel is a great option for this internal 11710E. Here we have the top section of the 11710E. The top row has the 4-digit Ginnie Mae issuer number, the RFS report period, the 6-character Ginnie Mae pool number, the loan FIC, which is also known as the P&I payment. The next row has the 15-digit case number, the actual removal date that the loan is being removed from the pool in RFS, the RFS loan type, and the loan interest rate. And the last row has the removal reason. Remember, if a reimbursement claim is being filed, removal reason 3, foreclosure with or without claim payment should be used. Next slide. The bottom part of the 11710E is the amortization schedule. These amounts should match the issuer's pre-collection notices. Since there is no curtailment reported, the amortization schedule is straightforward. Next slide. The 11710E should be completed prior to reporting the loan in RFS. Once the 11710E is completed, then reporting the liquidation in RFS is a breeze. So number 1 is the total interest due from the bottom of the 11710E and reported in RFS as the liquidation interest. Number 2 is the 11710E total principal remitted is reported in RFS as the liquidation principal. Number 3 is the liquidation balance on the 11710E and reported in RFS. Number 4 is the payment date on the 11710E and the RFS last installment date. Number 5 is the removal reason, which should be code 3. Foreclosure with or without claim payment if a reimbursement claim is being submitted. And last but not least, number 6 is the actual removal date. Next slide. And here we have a screen print of the PAMF liquidate loan screen with an example of the loan being liquidated without a curtailment in the past. RFS does not generate any exceptions the month of liquidation. Next slide. And a few tips. Reimbursement claims are in Chapter 31, Part 15, Section D, number 2 and 3 of the MBS Guide. The 11710E may be in Excel. Do not apply curtailment funds as borrower payments in RFS. When a curtailment is reported, the 11710E should have a separate line with a curtailment amount and the payment due date should be 1 month after the RFS report period. When a curtailment is reported, the 11710E should have a negative curtailment adjustment line after the final due date line. When a curtailment is reported, RFS generates an LIQ 153 and an LIQ 202 exceptions in the liquidation month. RFS does not generate any exceptions if no curtailment was reported. The amounts on the 11710E should match the issuer's pre-collection notices. And one more reminder, be sure to save and summarize the pool after any loan level reporting in RFS. Michelle, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Christy. Just a couple of things. The first thing is we do know that reason code 3 on the liquidation schedule is not a direct match. We're quite frankly, we're just working with the form that we have that's been approved. We have it on a list that whenever we are ever to update the form, that we would have a more accurate reason code. But for now, even though it's not a foreclosure with or without claim, we do use reason code 3 for reimbursement claims. And also, just another kind of helpful hint or check that we do is on your final settlement from FHA. If you look on the final settlement and you have your last payment date and your unpaid principal balance, it should match the first line on your liquidation schedule where it has like the payment due date and then it has balance. So that's actually a check or a reconciliation that we do when we're processing reimbursement claims. So that's another kind of helpful hint. I think that's all I have.
Thank you so much, Michelle. We'll now turn it over to the Ginnie Mae Central team.
Thank you, Christy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Natalina, and I'm part of the Ginnie Mae Central project team. We can go ahead and get started on the next slide. So as Michelle mentioned earlier, we are excited to announce the new request module to the GMC platform. And this module will be home to the new modernized reimbursement claims process. On the next slide, we will highlight some of the training materials available online. Today, we will focus on a high-level overview and demo of the process. But if you have any additional questions as you go through this process, please reference the resources published on Ginnie Mae's website, including a modernization bulletin, quick reference cards for each scenario that you can take in the system, and a user manual for an in-depth overview of the module. Users will log in through the My Ginnie Mae portal to access the new GMC request module to complete a reimbursement request. And so this module will have two different user groups, a basic user and an authorized signer. The basic user will be able to initiate the reimbursement claim request and enter the information regarding the claim. However, they will not be able to submit to Ginnie Mae. Each organization must have an authorized signer who is on the HUD 11702 to certify and submit the reimbursement claim to Ginnie Mae. Important to note that the authorized signer also has the rights of the basic user. So this authorized signer user would be able to complete the entire submission from start to finish. The entitlements to access this module have been added to pre-existing functional roles. As you can see here, the multifamily financial statements and insurance policy basic user and the multifamily insurance policy authorized signer role have now been renamed to include the reimbursement claims in that functional role name. So if you currently hold one of these existing roles and have access to either the financials or insurance GMC modules, you will automatically have access to this new module. However, if you do not currently have access to one of these roles, please coordinate with your organization admin to obtain the necessary roles to complete a reimbursement claim. Moving on to some important reminders for users in the My Ginnie Mae portal. User accounts will be locked after 90 days of no activity. User accounts will be disabled after a whole year of no activity, and this functional role and the soft token, if applicable to your role, will be revoked. And users who do not set up their soft tokens within 30 days of getting this role, that functional role will also be revoked. And users removed from the HUD 11702 will have their token and functional role revoked. And if you have any other questions, please contact the email on the slide. Bye. And now going into the high-level overview of the reimbursement claims process in GMC before we get into the demo. So what we'll show today is the going into the module to actually create this new reimbursement claim. So the user will log in, click on the module, and begin the claim. Once they have created the claim, they will begin uploading the reimbursement information, the same information that is submitted today, into the module in 3 different steps. And then once those 3 steps are fully completed, that is when you'll get to a review screen. And if you are the basic user, you're going to see a note that you're not able to certify and submit. And that is when you would reach out to your organization's authorized signer to let them know that the claim is ready for their review. And then they will come in and they will review all the information that has been inputted and then certify and submit it to Ginnie Mae. And then like I mentioned earlier, you can also be the authorized signer and do the same first 2 steps and complete the entire submission. Moving on to the last slide here before our demo. If you submit something and then Ginnie Mae sends it back for corrections regarding maybe some discrepancy in the information that has been submitted, you will get a notification that your claim is requiring corrections. So this is kind of what's similar to now being, or the old process, the email back and forth. This will all be done in the system to update that information. So you'll get a note from Ginnie Mae regarding the input field that might need to be corrected, and then you will be able to go back through the same exact form as we'll see today, and then just resubmit it back to Ginnie Mae. So I am going to go ahead and pull up my screen in the GMC module. So I am currently logged in as a authorized signer for our mock organization, Chesapeake Mortgage, for the sake of this demo. So here we are on the Ginnie Mae Central landing page. So this is after we have accessed through the My Ginnie Mae and clicked on GMC. We are rerouted here, and then we're going to click on this new request module. And once we get to this homepage, we will see the option to create a new request. We go ahead and click in on this, and we'll see the only option here is the reimbursement. Go ahead and click continue. And then these were the 3 steps that I had mentioned earlier that the basic user can fill out. So that's entering the mortgage information, then uploading and entering the FHA, claim information and then the banking information. And then that final step is the review and where that authorized signer is coming in and submitting. So on this first step, you're going to select the issuer number. For the sake of this example, we only have one for this organization. And then you're going to type in the Ginnie Mae pool number along with the FHA project number. And for the sake of time, I'm just using mock information just to show you the different screens. And once you also have entered the project name, you can go ahead and click continue. And we will move on to step 2. So step 2 is where we're going to upload the bulk of the information. And here you can see there's a few different sections: the transmittal letter, the final settlement, the liquidation schedule, and then we have our additional fields here. So it can be a lot of information. So if you want, you can always kind of click down on these so you can just focus on the section that you're currently filling out. But we'll go ahead and start with the transmittal letter. And then uploading that date that has to be within that 60-day period. For the sake of this example, we will say that it has not been curtailed. And then we will enter the information regarding the settlement statement, starting with actual document here. And then the data fields that we'll have to populate will be the 1% of the UPB. And then the partial and final interest with the dates. And the amount. And then we can move on to the liquidation schedule. We will upload that document. And then the last paid installment date, along with the UPB, the total interest due, the reason for the removal, and then we have our last dates here: mortgage default date, liquidation date, security rate, mortgage rate, and interest paid to holders. And so once all these fields are filled out, we can just double check we have completed everything on this screen. We can go ahead and move to step 3. And here on step 3, the user will be required to fill out the banking information. And once all the information on this screen has been updated, can go ahead and click continue. And this is where we get to that review the entirety of the request. So we'll see all the information that has been inputted in the last 3 steps on this screen, starting with step 1 up here, and then the information from step 2 throughout here. And then we will be able to certify and submit because we are logged in as an authorized signer. If I was logged in as a basic user, this is where we'd see a notice that we are not able to complete this submission. And that's when you'd have to get your organization's authorized signer to get in and complete this step. And then once this has been reviewed and certified, we can go ahead and click sign. And that will do our signature here. And then once that is complete, we can go ahead and certify and submit. And this is going to ask us to confirm. And we are going to confirm that it is ready to be sent to Ginnie Mae. And then as you can see here on our homepage, this review that we just submitted is in Ginnie Mae review. So once you get back to your home screen, which will automatically be rerouted here, you're going to see that it's now in Ginnie Mae review as the status. Obviously here we have a lot of testing data, but on your screen you would see any past reimbursement claims here and the status that they have been in on this homepage. So that concludes the demo of how to complete a submission in the new GMC module. We can go ahead and get back into the slides.
We can hand it over to you.
Before we get to answering your questions, we invite you to participate in a short survey. GMA uses your feedback to improve our content and delivery, and you are welcome to leave any thoughts you may have for our consideration. We really do appreciate your participation. Okay. While you're finishing that up, if you have any questions, there are 3 ways to address them. If you're dialed in from your computer, just raise your hand. If you've dialed in from your phone, please use *9, and we will call you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. Finally, we have the Q&A box, which will be answered live or via written responses by the project team. Bailey, do we have any hands up?
We do. We have a hand raised from Devin Reinhardt. Devin, you've been placed off mute and should be able to ask your question. Devin, can you hear us? Feel free to drop your question in the Q&A if you're having audio issues. Okay, Rob, it looks like Devin lowered their hand, so we can move on to the next question.
Any other hands?
Not at this time, no.
Okay, and it doesn't look like there are any questions in the Q&A box this time. Questions going once, going twice? Okay, a couple of quick reminders. We ask that you please submit your survey responses so that we can take your feedback into account for future training events. Also, a reminder that the presentation for today's webinar is available on ginniemay.gov, and the link will be posted in the chat. The video recording of this session should be posted when available, which can take about a week or so. If attendees have subscribed to training announcements, you will receive notifications for future training events. Thank you all for attending and participating today. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so very much for attending, everyone. Please remember, if you do have any questions or need clarifications, but you didn't want to bring it up on the call, you can definitely contact any member of the multifamily division. And have a great day.